Welcome to the Movie Cheer Podcast, the show for movie fans. I am your host, AP, aka Mr. Movie Cheer, and on today's episode of the Movie Cheer Pod, it will be the best movie character comebacks episode. That's right, best movie character comebacks. What is that all about, ladies and gents? A headline topic? Well, I will tell you. I thought about this, I like movies with a comeback story of some sort, some shape or form, and that'll be the premise of today's show. I'm going to be looking at some characters who have some really good comebacks in movies, and I've got some 4 really good movies that I'm going to discuss today later on the show in the headline topic. So I'm really looking forward to discussing the best movie character comebacks for later on in the show. But before we get to today's headline topic, before we start every show, as always, I start off the show with a segment called Not So Worthy Blockbuster Housekeeping. This is the part of the show where I discuss what's going on with the channel, with the community, and it's just an overall chit chat to ease us in to the rest of the show. So what's going on? Not So Worthy Blockbuster Housekeeping for this week. Let's see what is going on, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, I will just say, if you missed, maybe you were thinking there was no video last week, you were correct. There was no show last week, no Movie Cheer podcast episode of the podcast show. Last week I come down, I put out like a message online on social media, on the community tab and on like Instagram and stuff, saying I lost my voice. Bottom line of it, I lost my voice. I think I come down, it was like the Wednesday, I usually film this on the Friday, so it's like Friday, release on the Saturday. And I think it was the Wednesday of that week, I started getting really, like a really tickly cough, and like my throat, I was like struggling to swallow and stuff like that, and then it was just like felt like loaded my throat, and I don't want to go into too much detail because you don't want to hear too much, but I think basically I didn't go to a doctor because I've had it before. I pretty much think I had laryngitis, because then the voice started croaking, it started squeaking, and then it went completely. There was no way I could have talked on a podcast last week because there was no voice, unfortunately. But I will say this, I obviously have a day job. I do this podcast it's my hobby, my interest. But I will say, the most important thing, I was like, when the voice went, the first thing I thought about, I didn't think about work or anything else. I was just like, you know what, I hope I'm going to be able to do the podcast. And I'm glad it's not been 2 weeks, because I genuinely just enjoy doing this podcast, doing it and discussing movie topics, and discussing movie topics with you, the community out there as well, in the comments. It's great to get involved with this community. I really enjoy discussing movie topics with this community as well. So I'm glad I'm back. I will say though, just for the rest of the episode, if my voice sounds a bit odd, I've got a bit of a wisdom tooth issue at the moment. So I got over the laryngitis, I've got wisdom tooth issue at the moment. My right side of my mouth is a bit inflamed at the moment, so it sounds a bit different than normal. I do apologise, I can't do much about it, but I wanted to get onto there for at least I can speak. I might have a bit of a dodgy tooth going on, but I'm going to get through this show, and I'm going to deliver a fun-packed show for the rest of today's Movie Cheer Pod. Just wipe my nose. Let's see. So what else has been going on in Movie Cheer Town anyway, ladies and gents? Latest video this past week, another movie curator shelf club video, part 2 of the comedy classics shelf. Finally got that together, so part 2, there's 2 parts of that. It's going to be a continuous series on the channel now, the movie curator club episodes. I'm really enjoying doing those. I think they're really fun to do, and it's just a fun thing to do in here in the movie room, putting shelves together. I didn't realise how much of a fun process it would be, putting, gathering movies up and of certain genres, certain descriptions, and putting them together. It's really fun. I really enjoy doing it, as well as making the videos as well. It's been a fun process, so I've enjoyed doing that. On the Movie Cheer Podcast, moviecheerpodcast.com, the latest blog post this week is a Chippendale Rescue Rangers blog post. So I watched it. It's like the reboot of the late 80s cartoon Chippendale, and they're doing like this live action CGI reboot. And it was a really fun movie. I'll be honest, I really enjoyed it. I could recall when I watched the movie, I could recall bits of the show, so I don't think it's something I would watch religiously as a kid. but I remember watching it somewhat as a kid, and I remember seeing parts of it, but I'm not like a diehard fan of that show. So really going into it like fresh eyes on that sort of like that cartoon as a whole, property. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well done movie, and um, I thought it was just well put together overall. Just like the story was really fun and unique, and it was just something different. Something different. And to take two characters who were probably not very well known, I would say not very well known in comparison to like a cartoons of that time, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Trying to think of other things like Looney Tunes and stuff like that. Not super well known in comparison, but it really delivered a really fun movie that's on Disney Plus. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Check out the blog post on moviechairpodcast.com. I will link it in below as well in the bio description. Latest updates on Patreon. Just go over this really briefly. Patreon, you can join Patreon if you want extra content from Movie Cheer Pod for just $1 a month. If you want extra content, it comes from it can vary from bonus videos to bonus podcasts, audio, commentaries, webcomics. So this past week I had a webcomic on there, and coming up this Monday I believe it'll be a bonus video. I'm not going to reveal what the bonus video is, but I'm sure you'll find out if you are on the Patreon. I'll talk about it next week, only because I've not done it yet. I've not filmed it yet. I'm going to film it today. Last bit of a little update, really, and pay-per-view month it is. Every 3 months on the Movie Cheer podcast, it is a pay-per-view month. What does that mean? It means try and do something special at the end of the month. So the 3rd month of the year, the 6th month, the 9th, and the 12th month of the year, I'll do some sort of different episodes. So the last pay-per-view show, I had Sean from Media Collector Madness join me for a podcast episode, which was really fun. And it was different because I always do the show just on my own in here, just talking to the camera, talking to you, actually. And it was really fun, that. So I'm hoping to do something of a similar thing. And we did what did we do? We Clash of the Movie Seagulls, and we did sort of like a different vibe for the show as well, for that show. It was really fun. So I'm getting my pen and pencil out this week. I'm going to jot some ideas down and see what I can come up with, and see if we can get some more people involved on that episode as well, the pay-per-view show. I'm looking forward to doing that anyway. That'll be a fun one. I love them pay-per-view shows. I'm getting into them now. I'm getting into it's nice having guests on as well. It's fun. So that'll be coming up at the end of this month. And then I think after the pay-per-view show, I got one more episode of Movie Cheer Pod. It'll be the Thor Love and Thunder prediction show, and then I'm going to take a few weeks off again. Do this every couple of months now, where I just take 3 weeks off every 3 months, just to recharge, re-energize, and that's it. Yeah, but anyway, that is all of the not-so-worthy blockbuster housekeeping for today's show. Let's move on to the headline topic. So, best movie character comebacks. That is today's headline topic. And basically, as I said in the intro, I'm going to be looking at 4 different movies and 4 different characters, or one character, an individual character or characters, and looking at some of the greatest comebacks in movie history. And I've picked out 4 movies that I've really enjoyed watching constantly over the years, and I think there's some really good comebacks in these movies. So let's start off with movie number 1. So first off, movie number 1 is Rocky III, the 3rd Rocky movie, released in 1982. Just overall, I'm a big fan of the Rocky franchise. I mean, just going back, I think back when I was a kid, this is a movie, along with like the likes of Back to the Future, Star Wars. These are movies that I would watch constantly, especially like during school holidays. I really enjoyed these movies, the whole franchise of Rocky movies, and especially the first 4 movies. I wasn't fussed on at the time, the 5th movie, and I'm still not fussed on that with the street fight. But the first 4, for me, are solid movies. And I look at the 3rd movie, though, 3rd Rocky movie, and this is Rocky III, and why is this a great comeback story? Well, let's start kind of like at the beginning of this movie. We start a movie. It's introduced where it has the great recap. This is one thing, I've rewatched this movie the other night, and you forget like all these little things with what they have in the Rocky movies, the recaps of the movie prior. So you have like this recap of the second Rocky movie where Rocky beats Apollo Creed to become the world champion in boxing. And then he's world champion. Then you see this new montage for the third movie of him fighting new fighters, defending his belt, set to Eye of the Tiger, and it is amazing. First of all, solid song, amazing song. And you see Rocky now becoming kind of becoming what Apollo Creed was in the first movie. He's like this suit wearing, he's kind of like the Ric Flair of boxing. He becomes like this Ric Flair type figure. He's wearing suits. He's this professional speaker. He's on adverts. He's doing charities and stuff like that. And he's become like this model sports professional. And he's doing these fights. Mickey, basically, his coach Mickey, handpicks the fight, and we fight he's defending his world title against, and Rocky doesn't really know this. He thinks he's doing well as a champion, but they're not fixed, the fights. They are real fights, but he's handpicking the opponents so that he's not facing the toughest opponents available. And then we see in this montage of Eye of the Tiger the introduction of the villain of this movie, which is Mr. T, Clubber Lang, played by Mr. T. And basically, we see Clubber Lang, and then we see him doing his fights, and he's like this mean guy. He's a gritty, brawling fighter. He's everything Rocky was really in the first movie, and Rocky has kind of become, he's kind of become a bit complacent really in this story. So we see this montage, and then we see early on in the movie, then basically they're going to reveal this statue of Rocky and in Philadelphia. And in this big reveal, we see then Clubber Lang come out in the crowd, and he challenges Rocky. He's cheap talking him in the crowd. Rocky then decides to fight him, and this is before this is all going on, Rocky announces retirement from boxing, and this is where Clubber Lang then comes out and he's saying like he's scared of him and all this, and then Rocky then agrees to fight Clubber Lang against his manager, his coach, Mickey's wishes. He doesn't want him to fight him, and then he reveals he handpicked the opponents. Then Mickey, he says he'll coach him and we'll do the fight. And they do like this, this montage, this training montage. But again, he's like training with, he's become like this celebrity boxer basically. He's training and he's doing like live training shows where he got fans coming in and stuff like that. And it's not what the training was in the first movie. Mickey can obviously see he's just posing to the cameras all the time, and he's not got that edge, Rocky. He's not got the edge. He's become soft. So we then skip forward to the fight, and basically during the entrance of the fight, it's like in the backstage area. Mickey must be a guy in like he's like 80s, 70s or 80s, I would say, in this movie. He gets pushed by Clubber Lang when there's like a fight backstage between Rocky and Clubber Lang going on. He gets pushed, he's having heart issues, and then he has to go into the back. Rocky decides to go out and fight him because Mickey says, go and fight him. He goes out, loses the fight, comes back, Mickey then dies. It's kind of like, I don't think it says it, but it looks like he had a heart attack on screen. So at this point, Rocky is at zero. He's at zero. He's lost the world title of boxing. Clubber Lang is now champion, and he gets beaten in like the third round by Clubber Lang. He comes out fast, but Clubber Lang is just mean. He's powerful, and he just destroys Rocky Balboa. So the comeback story now begins. Mickey's death. We see the funeral of Mickey, and then we see Apollo Creed come into the gym where Rocky is at night, and he makes a proposition to him. He says, I'll train you to take on Clubber Lang. Apollo Creed is opponent in the first two movies, who's now retired. He's like a commentator, and he was watching that fight, that world title fight between Clubber Lang and Rocky. Rocky agrees, and he goes to Apollo Creed's roots. They go to California, then they move from Philadelphia to California to train. They go to Apollo Creed's gym, and he doesn't get probably the warmest receptions at first, but then people kind of warm to him. And that scene when he walks into Apollo's gym is just like everyone just stops, silence, and they're just all looking at this one white guy in the gym. It's really funny to watch, but it's really, I think maybe that probably back in the 80s, you probably had gyms like that where you'd have black people in one gym, white people in another gym. Maybe it was like that. I obviously, I don't know what it was like in California, in Philadelphia. I imagine it's probably a very somewhat accurate description of the way gyms were, boxing gyms back in the day. But people warm to him, and he becomes familiar with people in the, and then he starts training in Apollo's gym, and we see Rocky then at first. He starts doing the Eye of the Tiger. We see the Eye of the Tiger training music coming on, and Rocky's like learning to swim. He can't swim, and he's trying to get more speed. And he just can't get it. He just can't get it. He can't get that speed where they need the speed to take on Clubber Lang. If they can get him to be faster, a faster fighter, a more agile fighter, he can probably take Clubber Lang on because he can duck and dive and avoid his powerful, punches and tire Clubber Lang out as quickly as possible. Basically, that's the aim of the game, to beat him. He doesn't get it at first though, and Rocky has like a bit of like, it's like him just like feeling sorry for himself and just like feels like he can't do it. And then we see Adrian, his wife's kind of saying, "Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do it?" And then she like motivates him to do it again. Then you see the Rocky music hitting, and then you see like this awesome montage, Rocky classic montage, training montage then of him. He's running on the beach with Apollo, and he beats. In the first montage, he can't beat Apollo when he's running, when they're having like a sprint on the beach. In the second montage, he's just like he's sprinting forward. And he's got speed. Then he can swim he's just like a shark. He's like whoosh, whoosh. He's going crazy. And then we see the fight, and we see this comeback fight where Rocky takes on Clubber Lang again. And he does exactly what Apollo wanted him to do. He's got the speed level against Clubber Lang, and he just beats him for speed. And he just, avoids all his punches, and he wins the fight. And he ends up winning the fight and knocking Clubber Lang down in the end. And for me, though, it is a great comeback. I think, a lot of the Rocky movies are very, very similar story themes, but I like this one specifically the way, he loses the world title early on in the fight. And then it's a case where he has to then, find a new way, a new path, a new style of boxing. And he finds it. He finds it in a new coach, a new training gym. And he takes on Clubber Lang again, and he can take him down. He wins the battle, and it's a great, great fight. And just a few, side notes to this is, first of all, if boxing was that fast and that sort of intense, the way it is in a Rocky fight, I would be all in on boxing. I'd be all in boxing. I'm a big wrestling guy. If I seen a real life fight like the Rocky movies, I would be down for it. Because by the second round, Rocky has just he's full of blood, his eyes all beaten up. It is pretty unreal. I mean, it adds to it though. And the punches, when they're punching, you just hear like this massive like amazing, absolutely amazing. Another side note as well, Hulk Hogan, one of my favourite wrestlers of all time, appears in this movie at the start of the movie where they're doing like a boxing versus wrestling champion charity match, and Hulk Hogan plays Thunderlips in this, and he takes on Rocky, and he's like, first of all, Rocky's like, yeah, you wanna we'll just play around, but I'll punch you a few times, and then he just absolutely battles him, throws him out the ring. Rocky then takes his gloves off and starts beating him down. And one thing that cracks me up during this, and I was listening to it last night, Hulk Hogan during this Thunderlips, he's like beating down Rocky, and he's like, I think he says something like, "You think it's all fake, meathead? You think it's all fake?" And I just that line cracked me up. It's like maybe Rocky went into this like, and he's got this this view of wrestling that maybe wrestling's fake, which maybe a lot of people back in like the day in the 80s, especially, maybe it was like questionable. Is this fake? Is it real? People we didn't have the internet back then. What was going on? What is this thing wrestling all about? What is the truth behind it? It really cracked me up, that line. I thought it was nice. But Rocky 3, the comeback of Rocky Balboa against Mr. T, Clubber Lang, is awesome. So the first movie I'm discussing today. Let's move on to the second movie of today's show. Second movie is Space Jam, released in 1996, starring Michael Jordan, starring as himself as the basketball player back in the day, and he plays a fictionalized version of himself alongside the cast of the Looney Tunes. You got Bugs Bunny in there, the notable one, all the rest of the Looney Tunes in there. Basically, the premise of the story, the Looney Tunes get hijacked by these aliens from Moron Mountain, and they're going to make them slaves, but the Looney Tunes decide to challenge them to a game of basketball, these aliens. And if they lose, they'll be their slaves forever and ever. If they win, they can go free. And they then enroll Michael Jordan in their team because basically they call themselves the Monstars. They get this like superpower because they steal powers from professional basketball players, and they become like these giant alien creatures. And we see then the Looney Tunes having to take on alongside Toon Squad, alongside Michael Jordan, taking on the Monstars in this basketball game at the end. And if they win, they can get the powers back for the basketball players who they stole the powers from, and the Looney Tunes go free. And it's just a really fun story, I love at the end where like the Looney Tunes are kind of just like Looney Tuning it up and beating them for a while. And it's great. It's a great movie. You've got Wayne Knight in there, Bill Murray's in there as well. And yeah, I think I know they had the sequel out was it last year maybe or the year before now? What's it called? Space Jam Legacy, New Legacy, something like that anyway. And look, it was an okay movie. It was an alright movie. And it was, I forget the guy's, was it LeBron James? The guy who was in that. It was okay, but for me, that first movie was just, it was perfect. At the time, that was such a big movie as well. It was so big at the time, that movie. Everyone loved that movie. But I love the comeback in this. The comeback for me is the Looney Tunes are kind of getting beaten down. They're getting beaten down by the Monstars, and then it's when they start Looney Tuning it up. Like Michael Jordan's like, and Bugs Bunny is like let's be Looney Tunes basically. And then when they start Looney Tuning it up and doing what Looney Tunes do, just doing pranks and gags against the Monstars during the game, that's when the comeback comes. And then you see at the very end where they got to get like so many points, and then we see Michael Jordan doing this big stretch of his arm. His arm stretches like a cartoon, and it just stretches so like literally across the whole pitch, the whole basketball pitch. I don't know what you call it, an arena, and he gets the points, and they get the win. And I just think it's a really good comeback against these monsters, and it's a really fun movie. Space Jam 1996. Cracking film. Let's move on to my third choice of today's show. The third choice goes to Cool Runnings, released in 1993. It tells the story of the Jamaican bobsleigh team who go to the Winter Olympics to compete in the bobsleighing competition to try and win. And basically, I think this is a great comeback story in two scenes, really, for me. You see earlier on in the story, basically, 3 members of this 4-man team are sprinters, and they want to go to like the Summer Olympics, and they all fall during like the qualifying matches, and they all trip on each other, and they're like 3 of the best sprinters out there, and then they decide to get John Candy on board. They start this bobsleigh team, and 4 of these Jamaicans go to the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, the first bobsleighing team, and it's just a really great movie. This is a Disney movie, and again, this is one I would watch constantly as a kid, growing up during the holidays. It was just a one I had on VHS, but would be watched over and over again, Cool Runs. But for me, first of all, the comeback is, for one, from that scene. You got these 3 guys who have just lost their chance to go to the Olympics, which I imagine was, at the time in real life as well for them, was tragic. They work so hard and they all trip and they lose on the qualifiers, but they decide to come back from that that failure, that bad experience, to go to the Winter Olympics then. And then we see at the end of the movie where the bobsleigh crashes. It crashes during one of the last races because the bobsleigh is like falling apart basically, but they all get up. They all get up out of the bobsleigh, and they say they've got to finish the race. And they all get up and lift the bobsleigh up and walk to the finish line, holding the bobsleigh in the air. And that moment, I've said it many times on videos on this podcast, that is one of the spine-tingling moments. The scene, you've got Hans Zimmer doing the music, so it's a really great score playing in the background, but it's just, everyone just starts clapping then. They start clapping, it's such an emotional scene, but it's just an uplifting scene. And I think it's just a great comeback. Even though they don't win gold, I think what is amazing though, they come back from just the bobsleigh falling apart. They could easily just have walked off and just like said, we're out here, we're done. But they decide to come back from such a bad failure again, lift up the bobsleigh to walk to the end to finish the race. And to me, that is an awesome comeback. That is a comeback, and that is, for me, I'm getting like emotional talking about, because it's just a fantastic like movie scene. I love it, absolutely love it. But that is Cool Runnings. The final movie now I want to get to, the fourth movie of today's headline topic, is Spider-Man No Way Home, released in 2021. Kind of will say spoilers ahead for this movie, but I feel like it has been out for quite some time now, but spoilers ahead if you have not seen it. But I want to talk about Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield starred in the 2012 and 2014 Amazing Spider-Man movies, and at the time I wasn't a big fan of their movies. I've recently rewatched the first Amazing Spider-Man and really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie, really great movie. But I think his third movie got cancelled back in the day, of this trilogy. It was a planned trilogy of Amazing Spider-Man movies. It got cancelled because maybe it wasn't making enough money. I think it was doing well, but probably not as much as they thought they were initially going to get. And maybe they weren't as popular as the Tobey Maguire movies prior to them, the original trilogy. But it gets cancelled, and then we see the return in this multiverse movie. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe, tons of characters throughout the Spider-Man movies from the past two trilogies, and obviously the current one as well. And we see, I think the comeback here for me is Andrew Garfield, because he comes back and he maybe wasn't, for me certainly, I didn't think much of his version of Spider-Man at the time, and Peter Parker. But I see this return of this character in this multiverse movie, teaming up with Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland's versions of the character. And I thought he was the best part of that movie. He was my favourite part. I really enjoyed it. I think he was one of the best characters in there. And I think for me, the comeback here is obviously in Amazing Spider-Man 2, he sees Gwen Stacy die from falling from the building. He tries to catch her, but she obviously snaps her neck, is it? MJ is falling down a building, and you're going to see the same sort of scene, the same thing that happened again. But this time he saves the woman in Spider-Man's life. He saves MJ, and it's a comeback, and you see the emotion when he saves her, and it feels like it kind of like part and part, like, real life, it's like his emotion of return to that role as well. But I think it's a really special movie, and I think it's a great return to the Spider-Man franchise. I would absolutely really like to see an Amazing Spider-Man 3. I think it would be nice to see at some point. I don't know whether it will happen. My gut says it will not happen. I think we will see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield again for sure, but I don't think we're going to see him in solo movies. That's what I think anyway, my gut says. But I would really like to see it. I think it'd be awesome to see. But that was a great movie anyway. But I think Andrew Garfield, for me, was a surprising highlight of that movie. It really was good to see him. And I think, honestly, if you've not revisited them movies in a while, go back and watch them Amazing Spider-Man movies, because they are really decent movies. The first one especially is a really good movie, really worth checking out anyway. But that's today's headline topic over for today's show. Let's move on to the next segment of the Movie Cheer Pod. It's time for the Movie Variant Showdown segment of the show. Are you ready? Movie Variant Showdown. Each and every week I choose a representative of a movie property, whether it be a case cover, a character, a movie, and I take that representative and put it against a fellow representative of that movie property and decide which is the best. And today I will be judging the Speed movie starring Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, the case covers of this, the UK case covers. So I'm looking at, there was a 2021 on release of a 4K of this movie. I seen it on Amazon this past week, and I thought, you know what, this would be a good movie to discuss for this. So I'm going to be looking at the DVD case cover, the UK case cover, the Blu-ray UK one, and the 4K, and deciding which is the best. So first of all, let's start off with the DVD of Speed. Let's see. You know, this is, you know, it's big use of like the yellows and the oranges. You've got Keanu Reeves, you've got the bus in the background, which is a, you know, big part of this movie, the bus, and there's flames in the background. I like this. I think it's simple. It kind of feels like it's a 1993 movie. This feels like a 1993 cover of a movie, this one. It really is like a cover of the time, I would say. Kind of reminiscent of like the colours used in like the Mummy movies as well. I don't mind this. I think it's simple. It's nothing great, but it's okay. I think it's, like I said, of the time, I think it works. Now let's move on to the Blu-ray of this movie. So the Blu-ray cover. I got to say, the Blu-ray cover, kind of similar, but you've got a bit of a closer-up shot of Keanu Reeves, the bus in the background again. It kind of looks like really bright, too bright on his face sometimes. This, maybe like the light just looks a bit off. The colours look a bit off here. I think it looks more like, this looks more like a TV movie cover. This one, it just looks like a really cheap, like the first cover. I think looks like decent enough. This looks like it's someone's just tried to make this in paint. It just doesn't look that good in comparison to the DVD. So yeah, I'm not really fussed on this Blu-ray cover. I think it could have done better. It could have done something better. I would have even just copied what the DVD done. I think it would have been simpler, and it would have just looked better than this. I just don't think it looked advertising for the movie, really. Now, let's go to the 4K. So the 4K was released in 2021, and I got to say, the 4K cover is phenomenal. I think it is a great cover. You see the bus in action, basically. The bus can't stop throughout this movie because it's got I think it's got a bomb on it. I've not watched this movie in a while, so I need to rewatch Speed. But we see the central characters of Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock in there, and then you see the bus, you see a helicopter on top, you see the logo of Speed, and this reminds me of something you'd see in maybe a Fast and Furious cover. It looks very, use of natural colours, but it looks really strong, and I think it works to this cover. So that is the 4K cover of this. I think it is fantastic. So what is the best and which wins movie variant showdown for this week? Well, I will say the 4K cover definitely wins. I think it is really significantly better than the DVD and Blu-ray. I think the DVD probably comes second for me, but the 4K is really great. I think it looks eye-catching. I think if you're going down a movie aisle, you're going to HMV, you see that the 4K cover of Speed. It looks like an advertising movie. It looks like something I would want to watch. And so Speed 4K wins it for me on Movie Variant Showdown. Now let's move on to the next segment of today's show. The next segment of today's show is Movies for the Weekend. Every week I choose 2 movie recommendations for you out there, and I've got 2 movies as always. Let's go for it. So first of all, I will say I had the Comedy Classics video this past week, and I've got a movie here that Sean, Media Collective Madness, mentioned in the comments. He said Road Trip is a great movie, and I've got Road Trip right here. I won't show the front cover because it's a bit revealing. I think let's keep it PG on this channel. But yeah, Road Trip is, I think if you like the American Pie movies, you'll like this. It's got, what's his name? The guy, Sean Thingy Scott, who plays Stifler in the American Pie movies. He's in this as well. Really very similar vibe of the American Pie movies. A really funny movie. Well worth checking out, Road Trip. Next up, I have got Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours. It's kind of like this buddy cop movie of the 80s. If you like Beverly Hills Cop, you like a Lethal Weapon sort of vibe, you'll like this movie. Really good movie to watch this weekend if you're looking for something to watch. That's 48 Hours. And they are the movie recommendations for this weekend. You have to let me know what you're watching this weekend. You're going to watch these movies, or you got something lined up yourself? Anyway, let's move on with the rest of the show. The Amazon Top 10 is approaching. Prepare yourself. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Amazon Top 10 has arrived. So what is on the Amazon Top 10 this week? The Amazon Top 10, each and every week, I look at the bestsellers list of physical movies on Amazon.co.uk, and it is DVDs, 4Ks, and Blu-rays. What is in the Amazon Top 10 this week? Let's go through the list, ladies and gents. First of all, at number 10, we have got the DVD of Top Gun. That's the 30th anniversary release of that movie, obviously, with Top Gun Maverick coming out over the past week or two. I've still not watched it, but I'm looking forward to checking it out at some point. But the DVD Top Gun, the original movie, is at number 10. At number 9, we have the DVD release of Spider-Man No Way Home. At number 8, How the Mighty Have Fallen. Sing 2, the DVD release, is at number 8. 2 weeks ago on the show, it was number 1. It is now at number 8. The tide has changed. We have a new number 1. I'm happy. It's about time. I'm pleased about that. I'm pleased. At number 7, we have Belfast, the DVD of Belfast. At number 6, we have the Batman 4K release, The Batman, Robert Pattinson movie. That's at number 6. At number 5, I imagine this will be the pre-order of Top Gun Maverick on DVD. That is at number 5. At number 4, we have the DVD release of James Bond, No Time to Die. And number 3, I think this again is in the pre-order because I don't think it's out just yet. Number 3 is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, a DVD release of that. I've not seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to watching that one. And number 2 is the DVD release of The Batman. And at number 1, it is the Blu-ray release of The Batman. So The Batman has taken over from Sing 2 at the top of the Amazon Top 10. And I think that's going to be a movie like No Time to Die that will be kind of on there for quite some time. I think the only movie that I could see budging that movie off the top spot is, Top Gun Maverick could do it. Top Gun Maverick or Doctor Strange 2. I think one of those two, maybe. Probably more inclined to say Doctor Strange 2 would be the one later down the road. That would be the one that would beat the Batman off the top spot. But yeah, I'm glad we've got Sing 2 off there. We've got a movie that I've actually watched on there. I'm glad about that. That's the Amazon Top 10 anyway for this week. Let's move on with the rest of the show, ladies and gents. And we now move on to the final segment of today's show, which is What's Been on the Screen. This is part of the show where I discuss what I've been watching over the past week. Obviously, it's been the past 2 weeks because I didn't do the show last week. So what has been on the screen? I'm going to say this. Stranger Things, I've been hearing tons of buzz about season 4 on Netflix. Let me just go rewind a tiny bit. I watched the first season of Stranger Things when it came out, or maybe a bit after it came out initially, and I think I was watching Jason Brett's video. He's done a video. I think he's kind of in like a similar boat to me. Check out his channel, Jason Brett, great channel. He done a review that first season this past week, put it up, and he said it was like the first time him watching it, and I felt like fresh eyes. So I watched it like 6 years ago. That's when it came out initially, and I just wasn't. I thought it was an alright show, but it just wasn't for me. Something about it just didn't click with me, and I just didn't end up watching any more of it. And hearing all this buzz of the new show, and I've seen trailers and different video clips, I thought, oh, you know what? I think I've got this urge to watch it, and it felt like an urge. It's like, you know what? I've got to watch this show. So I ended up watching the first season, and obviously because I wasn't feeling great as well, I couldn't speak. I was kind of just like spending a lot of time in my bedroom, just like watching movies, watching TV shows, just sulking to myself because I couldn't speak, and I was just watching Stranger Things, and I binged the first season in like a couple of days and really enjoyed it on the rewatch. And like I said, I didn't think it was awful the first time. I just didn't really feel like watching any more of it, really. Watched that, really enjoyed it, and then I decided to watch season 2 as well. So I've watched season 2, season 1 now. I'm going to watch the third season this week, hopefully, if I ever get time at some point to watch it. But yeah, it's a really good show. It's a really good show. I think for it's obviously for me, it's like a sci-fi horror show. I don't think it's like really heavy in horror. I think there's definitely a lot of horror in there, but I think it's quite tamed in general. But it's a really well done show. You've obviously got a lot like this kid. Spoilers for the show if you've never seen it. It's a 6-year-old show, but you get this kid who is shown in this first season, 11, played by Millie Bobby Brown. She's like telekinesis. She's got superpowers. And you get like one of these kids in this, like, there's this group of kids. One of them gets abducted and taken to this upside down world, which is like the reverse of our world where monsters live. And the first, season is like the trying to find the boy from who's got abducted, Will Byers, I think his name is. And they obviously go through that season. They find the boy, and 11, this unknown girl who was like basically from this Hawkins lab in the town of Hawkins. She was, her mother was used for medical experiments and stuff like this, and she was basically she's gifted. She has powers, and it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, and so I think that character of 11 is pretty awesome. She integrates with the group of these boys, and they befriend her, and then she's a big part of it, and she's a big part of kind of like destroying the monsters and finding Will. And we see it in the second season as well. The development of the character. They think she sort of like dies at the end of the first season, but Hopper, this this police officer in the town, he finds her and takes her and puts her in the woods and looks after her and kind of becomes sort of like a fatherly figure to this young girl, 11. While she, her powers are still developing, she's trying to come accustomed to the world as a whole, because she was like shielded throughout her childhood, where she was researched on and to do these weird like MK Ultra experiments. Really very fringe like show in that side of it in the Hawkins lab. But she is a big part of season 2 as well, where really the people of Hawkins, the main characters in Stranger Things, would be a lot worse off without 11 in this show, because she is the one who closes the upside down gate in the second season. She's, without her, the world would be in ruins. All the monsters from the upside down would be destroying the world. But it was a really, really great show. I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to watching season 3 and 4. And I'm kind of glad as well, which is really good. I've kind of avoided spoilers for this show. I've heard little bits and stuff over the years, and I don't know whether some of these things will still happen in later seasons. I watch like 3 and 4, but I've not really had the show spoiled for me as well, which is nice when you're watching a new show. So I've really enjoyed it, and it's been fun to watch Stranger Things. And I would really encourage, if you've never watched it before, it's well worth checking out. I think it's a great. I think if you like science fiction, I think for me it's comparable to like shows like Fringe. I think I like them shows where it's got that science fiction horror type element to it, and it's not too heavy in horror. It's not too violent. It's okay, and I could stand it. My stomach could could hack it, and I got through it, thankfully. I just want to mention one more movie a movie I've been watching as well this past week. I watched Sonic 2 for the first time, and I really had a lot of fun watching that movie. A really entertaining movie, sequel to the first Sonic movie. I thought the first Sonic movie was really fun family movie, and I watched this, and it felt like it was a lot more, nods to the video games, where they had a lot more of the characters. We had Knuckles, Tails introduced into this story, and it felt more like the video games. It had like more, they were looking for this like emerald, this like this this super powered emerald in the movie, and it had like sort of like parts of the movie where they're going in like these big caves and stuff, and it just felt like more like they were going like in platforms more, and it was like going into like a video gamey world a bit more rather than the human world as much, and it was a really fun movie. I thought the wedding scene in between though was a bit weird. I just didn't like that wedding scene. It was a bit like odd, bit of an odd scene. There was some funny moments in it, but I just thought it just like kind of like it went full on human characters for like a good for like 10 minutes or so. Maybe it wasn't that, but it felt like it was just like not needed. I don't know why they just don't focus on the video game characters on their movies. I think I do for the third movie, I would just go all in. Don't have any human characters apart from maybe Jim Carrey if he returns as Robotnik. Just go all in on like the actual characters like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles. Go all in with them characters. I think it works much better. But yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was a really good sequel. I'm looking forward to the third movie as well now. Obviously, there was a teaser at the end for what we're going to go, what direction we're going to go for the third movie. But anyway, that's what I've been watching this past week. That's what's been on the screen. So that is it for today's show, ladies and gents. If you enjoyed today's show, please do give it a like if you're watching on YouTube and leave a comment and check out the rest of the movie-related content on the channel. If you are listening to this via a podcast app of your choice, please do leave a 5-star review. All the 5-star reviews, all reviews help the channel to grow even more so. And let me know what your thoughts are on today's topic, ladies and gents, of best movie character comebacks. What are some of your favorite best movie character comebacks in movie history? Let me know all your thoughts on today's topics. It's been really good to return, and I just want to say thank you also to people who've given me well wishes while I wasn't feeling great the other week as well. So thank you very much, ladies and gents. A really fun topic today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents. Remember to spread a bit of movie cheer, and as always, I will see you next time.